Herr Kahn, wie holt man eigentlich das Du-Bild?
Ganz einfach, mit einem neuen Samsung QLED-TV.
Jetzt QLED-TV-Aktionsgerät kaufen und Gutscheine für 6 Monate Live-Fußball aus europäischen Top-Ligen bekommen. Über Sky-Ticket, The Zone und Eurosport-Player in der Samsung Sportworld-App. Mehr Infos auf samsung.de/sportworld.
Nur bis zum 17. Juni.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to another conversation about your Kundalini Awakening experience. I'd like to welcome you to this program, and I'd also like to welcome Amelia Santara. So I'm going to put her on. Hello, Amelia.
Hello, Chrism.
And,
hello, Chrism.
Hello. I hope things are going well in Ireland at this moment.
Yes, things are going very well. I'm not in the Kingdom of Kerry tonight. I'm in Cork, which is known as the Rebel County. So greetings from Cork to you in Santa Rosa and to all our listeners around the world.
And a fond, rebellious greeting to you as well. Right now we're, broadcasting both from Santa Rosa and from Cork, the Rebel County of Ireland. And I'd like to welcome everybody who may be in the chat room. Amelia, do we have people there?
Yes, Chrism, we do. We have a few people. We have Steve is there, Fashji is there, Lorna is there, and guests with numbers are there. So again, welcome everyone.
Welcome Steve, Lorna, Fashji, and everyone else really who is there. It's a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you listening live. I would like to also welcome everybody who's listening in the archives that in the future, and hello to you all. For information on where to find out some more about perhaps aspects of your Kundalini Awakening experience, you can go to KundaliniAwakeningsystems1.com. You can go to the Facebook groups of Kundalini Awakening ! You can go to YouTube channel, which would be Chrism Kundalini there, and there's about, I think, 297 videos that may help you with your particular aspect of the equation. There's also a Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 on Facebook. That's a group on Facebook. And then on the Yahoo network, we have Kundalini Healing and Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 Yahoo groups. I'm going to try to move my little portable studio here over into another place here in the house. As you know, I get fairly challenged sometimes with the technology to put on this program. Before I get started, I would like to send out a level of thank you to Amelia and her husband John for allowing this program to occur at all. Without their generous help, one moment. Without their generous help, this show wouldn't be happening. So thank you, John and Amelia.
Okay, Chrism, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure and privilege for us to do this so that other people can hear the Kundalini teachings that come from the Kundalini through you. I just want to say your voice is warbly. Perhaps it's because you're moving around, but it has been warbly. So maybe if anybody is listening, they could let us know if it's just I'm hearing it that way or if it is so for everybody.
One moment, please. Okay, all right then. So yeah, if we can do a little bit of a check here, can anybody hear me clearly enough?
Yes, Sashji says I'm correct. Your voice is warbling, so that means I don't know, maybe go back further from the mic, maybe, or something.
Okay, well I am back further from the microphone. I'm in the familiar rocking chair that I like to do this show from. I had to move from the kitchen to here and hook up various devices here so that it would work. But it should be coming in fairly clear at this point. Is that true, everyone? Can anybody call in and give me an idea?
No, you're still warbling a little, not quite as much. I wonder, are there two devices right next to each other? That seems to have an effect.
What?
Okay, Rosemary is on. Let's put her on, and she'll tell us. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi. What I hear is there's crackling, like not loud in the background, Chrism, but your voice is strong.
Well, thank you, Rosemary. I'm gonna take it out of the case here. Maybe that'll do it. Amelia, I don't know about the whole two thing. I'm sitting here in the chair with an iPad. That's what's happening. So I don't know that there's any kind of another device going on here. Anyway, there should not be any more crackling, and there should not be any more itinerant noise. Are you hearing it still, Amelia?
Yes, Chrism, I am. It's not as bad as it was now, so maybe just continue, and sometimes it settles down. So perhaps begin and see. Okay,
well, the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to offer anybody that has a question about their Kundalini awakening experience the opportunity to call in to the show. The number is 347-934-0026. That's United States area code 347-934-0026. I'd like to talk with you today about systems that proclaim to pretty much answer all your questions about the Kundalini. A religious tradition. There's a whole line of understanding from some of the ancient Vedic tradition in India called Sanatana, and that's making a real big resurgence in the world today vis-a-vis the internet and people that are really, feel great attraction towards that. But there are other smaller outlets that, proclaim to know everything there is to pretty much know about Kundalini, and they try to lump it into one big generalized concept of, well, if you do this, and then you're going to go to 73 different paths to enlightenment, and it's absolutely incorrect. There are far more than 73 different paths to enlightenment. To even suggest a numerical value to the path to enlightenment is to tell a person who is astute enough to discern that, wow, this probably isn't the best information that you're receiving right now. It's very similar to the 144,000 people that are there for another civic religion. These people get these ideas, and a lot of the time these ideas are fostered by an entity or a group of entity, a consciousness that has many memberships within it. So we're talking probably more about an egregore of many different consciousness espousing a certain religious ideology in order to manipulate large numbers of humanity, 5 cents kind of still sleeping humanity on this world. With Kundalini, I find that there is no hard and fast, simple truths that control large groups of Kundalini awakening people. Everybody has their own unique karma. Everybody has, and because of that unique karma, We have a unique experience within the Kundalini. It's not going to be the same. Now, the problem with some of this is that when you mix fabrication with truth, it takes on aspects of truth, because truth is such a powerful experience with a person that it's very difficult for people to sometimes discern, because, well, this part's true and I've experienced that, and so therefore, because this one part is true, therefore that must make the entire thing true. And this is not true. This is not true. So I'm just going to go back. Amelia, is it coming in clear now? Do I need to call back into the show?
No, Chrism, you do not. It has improved, and Steve has very kindly offered to monitor it from the chat room, and if you deteriorate there, he's going to let me know through type. So I very much appreciate that. So you've got it now covered in 2 ways. Much better, much better. Really good.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Rosemary, as well. Everybody for pitching in and helping us work on the sound quality of this show. As I was mentioning to Amelia earlier, I'm talking into an iPad. I'm holding this iPad, and it's they give you this mobile studio here with Blog Talk Radio. I think it's a pretty good thing. It's not too hard to work, but sometimes the technology itself comes under pressure from Kundalini itself. Kundalini itself will begin to mix and sometimes causes a level of interference with electronic products such as laptops. I have to say, I got to hand it to Apple and this iPad. It has withstood the Kundalini the best out of all of them. I've had this since 2012, I think, and almost every show, I will have to say, every show that we have done has come through this iPad, and it's still working. So kudos to the Apple engineers that designed this iPad. Anyway, back to the topic. So when a group or a group of consciousness mix in certain aspects of truth with certain aspects of, shall we say, supposition or guesswork, it begins to take the guesswork into areas of truth within the mindsets of individuals. And so it can be very difficult to unravel the actual kernel of truth or without taking the entire concept itself in as a whole. And the concept itself as a whole is not bad. I typically don't, if the noble qualities are being followed, noble qualities being forgiveness, tolerance, patience, love, kindness, compassion, service, all of these types of behaviors are the noble qualities, that which is true within the aspects of love and the reflection of divine love from grace into our hearts as a large generalized population of awakened people. If the noble qualities are being followed, then I'm not out here to try to prove everybody right or wrong. That's not my job. My job is just to give people information about their Kundalini awakening. However, sometimes it begins to influence people one way or another, or causes them to spend money in one way or another, or causes them to divert their attention and their energies, say, towards that group of consciousness that believe, one way or the other. And to me, that is not true. To me, that is beginning to orchestrate a fantasy that has aspects of truth within it. The Kundalini, as many of you know who are awakened or activated in awakening, is very, very, very insistent on levels of truth. So it's far more interested in control, and it's living out certain fantasies of attachment and desire, and when you mix that control and fantasy and desire into shall we say, a program that seemingly incorporates Kundalini, well, then you're going to have some problems. I would to suggest to people that there is no one way or 73 ways or 173,000 ways into the fields of enlightenment. There are as many ways as there are cells in your body and more. The average human has 17 trillion cells. So, there's more than 17 trillion possible probabilities into the fields of enlightenment that a person can take. Each cell has its own consciousness, has its own level of pardon me a minute here. I want to make sure I don't turn things off on this iPad. Has its own level of evolution and karma and all of this, and they all come together into a gigantic egregore, which is you. Okay, so the you that you are have literally an infinitude of possibilities towards the enlightenment equation, and don't let anybody restrict you through mind manipulation or through the manipulation of your ego's wants and desires and attachments. You really don't need to go there. What you really need to go into is your own Kundalini. Your Kundalini, and typically what I have seen is the Kundalini will not. Okay, you need to turn right, turn left, go straight, then turn right, left, go up the hill, down the hill, into the valley, over towards the pond, veer to the left, beyond the pond, and then go over the bridge, and it'll be on the right-hand side. It won't do that. It'll just go in the general direction of this point. It's not about giving you all the answers, And a lot of these outfits will, they've got it charted so well. Oh my gosh, you go into the Atman and you got the astral and the causal and the mind and the mental, and you go through there and on the left-hand side of the astral, as you go just beyond the causal and the mental, well, on the left-hand side there's one of the 3 ways or one of the 73 pathways, and there's a good sign there and a stoplight that says, okay, go this way. No. This is not. Kundalini and these higher states are not chartable. Because we come into them from such diverse and separate karmic backgrounds, we don't get to lay out a map of the exact way to get anywhere within the heavenly fields. Heavenly fields are not cartographic. You don't get a map to them. You can get some signposts that suggest, well, okay, with your Kundalini awakening experience, you're going to have some kriyas. These are spontaneous body movements that will happen without your permission. It'll make you feel like you're a little like you're possessed, or you got something else inside you that wants to express through you, and so it's moving your body this way or that, and maybe you'll hear a lot of chirping or humming like bees, or all of the different Kundalini phenomena can be seen as signposts. But they're signposts on the path. They're not saying go right, go left, go forward, and when you get to the Atman and you go to the Oversoul, and then to the left of the Oversoul is another one of the 23 paths. No. Your equation is going to be unique to you, and the most important thing that you can do is you listen to your Kundalini. Listen to the information that your Kundalini sends you to. Now, if your Kundalini sends you to an organization that I'm describing, well, that's a different story. Then your Kundalini wants you to have some of the knowledge that, some of the hopefully truthful knowledge that they are offering, and then maybe later on, she'll begin to show you that, part of this is true and part of this is not true, and then here's the truth part, and let's continue the journey. But for the most part, these groups are, they're looking to convince people that they have the one way, they have the one system, they have the one recipe into enlightenment and beyond. That's another thing that I want to discuss with you, is that there is no beyond Kundalini. Beyond is merely a word that suggests that there's farther to go. Beyond Kundalini is Kundalini. Oh, and then as you go beyond that Kundalini, there's more Kundalini. Kundalini is the divine consciousness. Divinity does not have geographic locales that go beyond itself. In a way, you can see all around you. You can see the signature of divinity all around you. Look around the room you're in. That's divine too. What Kundalini does is it brings it into a very different understanding, a very different level of comprehension, a very different level of unification and joining with that which the divine has provided with us, for a tool to learn that we are one and we are plural at the same time. We are the Wanzhou rune, if you follow any of the rune things. So that's the one that looks like a Y. We are the two that are one and the one that is two. We are the branch that's forked. Okay, we are singular and we are plural. We are one and three at the same time. And more, as you go outside of the 5 sense paradigm, we are even more. There are more angles to add to that. It doesn't mean that once you've had Kundalini, last summer, I had Kundalini, it was really good, and now I'm looking for more. No, that was not Kundalini. That was maybe an experience with Chi or an experience with, energy modulation within yourself. Like Reiki is pretty good for that type of thing. If you want to feel energy temporary, well, then there you go. And then, of course, if you happen to be unlucky enough to have entities come, well, then you can feel that individual energy pull quite often. If you have a question about this topic or any other topic regarding your Kundalini Awakening experience, please call 347-934-0026. And I'd like to bring Amelia Santara on board here. Your Holiness, are you awake? Hello, Amelia.
I'm awake.
Oh.
Hello, Chrism.
So have you experienced anything what I'm talking about, you yourself?
Well, yes, I have. I've had various experiences. I would have had an experience with a particular group myself. So, yeah, hard enough to explain it really, Chrism. But they were an organization. They're very good. They have good hearts. They're very helpful. But they have they had a very definite but hidden belief that they did have the answers to everything. And I suppose, I was invited and other people were invited in to explore and to look at A and B within my own life. But what I began to discover was really it was confined to what they saw as being the truth. And I really liked what you said there about there was elements of truth in it, but it wasn't, what was it you said? It wasn't the whole thing. It was like mixing fabrication with truth. There was some parts truth.
Or guessing and wishful thinking.
Yes. And that took a little while for me to be able to see clearly. And so, yes, I have seen this on other occasions and in other scenarios as well. I have seen it happen, and it's something that can be, it's very manipulative, It's very manipulative, and people get trapped in it. And people are restricted by it. And, so I think what you're speaking about is very important.
Let me ask Josephine. Josephine Smith, paging Josephine. She comes. Everybody, we're being honored by the grace and presence of Miss Josephine Smith. Everybody, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Now, Josephine, have you been following our conversation?
Yes.
And have you encountered a group where, they seem to know everything and, all about enlightenment? They know exactly what you got to do and all of that?
When I first started looking up after my initial awakening, there were many things on the internet. And then I came to Chrism.
Oh, you found the worst one. You went straight to hell in a handbasket. No, just kidding. I also, Amelia, encountered on my process. I actually, even before the Kundalini came the second time to this body, I came to a place called. I won't say the first name, but it had the second part and the part were Psychic Institute, and it had really, really, really good tools that allowed you to begin to validate the exalted Siddhic skills that would come through the Kundalini, and yet, we're going with the answer to all things. The answer to all things, and if it wasn't of them, then it was invalidating. That was a word they just used. They used that word ad nauseum. Well, that's not validating. Oh, well, that's an invalidation. And I was able to take certain truths from them and just discard those that I didn't feel were appropriate, at least not appropriate to me. And of course, when the Kundalini awakened, for me in 1990, the second time, the actual physical awakening, that ideology was validated. That's nobody has there is no one way. There is no one correct way. There are many, many, many ways. Sure, that one way, like let's just use A Course in Miracles here. Of course, somebody just added into A Course in Miracles group on Facebook. I have no idea who does these things, but somebody added me to that group, and I'm somewhat familiar with ACIM, and I think and a lot of people receive Kundalini activation from the practices and the techniques that are involved within A Course in Miracles. And so, of course, now I'm on that group, and I'm not quite sure what to do there. But it does not have all the answers, but it does have some very, very, very good practices and concepts. And so, of course, A Course in Miracles is a beautiful, wonderful way. It's a way for you to go if that is what your Kundalini is guiding you towards. Josephine's looking at me and smiling.
I'm smiling here too. And one of the reasons I am too is because there was a time for a little while where the Course of Miracles, I read it and I incorporated some of their daily lessons into my life, and it had relevance and it was validating. But there came a time when that was to be let go. It was for me now. I'm speaking about, Anyway.
Yeah, and I looked into ACIM, and I also looked into that big one, Urantia, the Urantia book. I thought, oh my gosh. For those that aren't familiar with Urantia, it's spelled Urantia, and a bunch of folks in the 50s channeled this huge volume of information about the anatomy of the physical dimension and its intersecting anatomies with the spiritual dimension, and all of this huge book. And look into that, and then God created the angels, and then God created the mosquitoes, and all of the different things. Not that I'm making any kind of a segue between angels and mosquitoes, except they both have wings. there are parts of the belief systems are this way too. So there's parts of Christianity that are spot on with the Kundalini. There are parts of Buddhism that are spot on with the Kundalini. There are parts of Hinduism spot on with the Kundalini. There are parts of shamanism that are spot on with the Kundalini. There is not one way to truth, and I really want people to really begin to understand this, that it's your Kundalini that will begin to direct you into informational sources that are open to help you in your equation, but it may not be the whole truth. She may just giving you a little bit of a classroom to help you move on. So I don't want you to I just want to advise you not to get sucked into the degree that you listen to other people that are there and say, oh, no, this is the only way. Oh, no, this is it. This is the way. And that goes for the same for what I'm telling you in all of these broadcasts. Don't you believe everything that Chrism says totally applies to you and your situation. It may, but there may be a smidgen of helpfulness that can come to you through these broadcasts. Today, absolutism. Absolutism means that it's an absolute quality. There is nothing else. Just this. And this is what you get. Take it or leave it. This is all there is. I don't do that. I don't speak in the terms of the absolute. I speak in terms of my experience and in what I am being given through the awakened Kundalini to give to you. And today I'm being given through the Kundalini to let you know that human systems of a 5 sense production do not have the ultimate truth of what Kundalini is or is not. So,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think what can happen is that we're in a group, and as we progress in the group and as we become, I suppose, submerged into, the philosophy within a group, in a Kundalini context, what I have seen happen is the surrender that the Kundalini asks from us, from the person that it's awakening within, the surrender to it, is sort of not given to the awakening within, but is diverted to the philosophy of the group. And so a person can be pulled away from what the Kundalini and the Kundalini's agenda within themselves, because the Kundalini, in my experience, reveals directly to the person. It sends them here and there. It reveals directly. And one of the things, and I mean, I'm around a while, and one of the things that is about your group or your teachings is that they facilitate that process. They not facilitate, I don't know if that's the right word, but it is about surrendering to the Kundalini, not about doing, what you say. It's always connected to the inner divine that is within the person that it's awakening to, and that's surrender. And so that there's a huge difference there. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very clearly, but I might be, actually.
I think you did. I think you explained it clearly. Seriously, it's about following what the Kundalini tells you to do. Now, when you're early on in your equation, it's hard to discern what the Kundalini is telling you to do because you're not used to receiving that kind of information. And so Josephine Smith, no relation to Joseph Smith. I just want to make that clear. Josephine here, Amelia and Rosemary, who have come out here to the ashram in Santa Rosa. When I've noticed when people come here, and so I'm going to use Josephine. May I use you as an example? She's saying yes. Can you really say yes?
Yeah.
Thank you. So Josephine, and she starts to immerse herself in the freedom of her Kundalini awakening equation. Nobody else has had the kind of experiences that Josephine has had here. And yet, all of her experiences are being supported by my Kundalini, supported by her Kundalini, supported by the aggregate Kundalini energy that is here at the house. She's had some stupendous levels of information come to her, and some very, very strong experiences in addition to those levels of information. She's been doing a lot of spinal sweeping in the dream life. Spinal sweeping a lot in the dream life, and to some degree in the waking life as well. And this is a person that is less than a year old, or you're right, you're about a 1 year old with regard. Yeah, she's about a 1 year old with the Kundalini. Okay, and it is not following a set pattern. It is not following a set pattern that I have laid down. It's following its own pattern within her that I am being support, because I can see the truth in it. My Kundalini sees the truth in it. But in your early process, it's difficult to discern the truth from the lie. And one thing that, in addition to what Amelia has said, which I think, what Amelia said is very, very important. We can feel so alone in the early part of our experience that all we want to do is reach out to people that even know the word Kundalini. And then when we find those people that word, and they seem to know a lot more about it than we do, we begin to distance ourselves from our own inner communication with the Kundalini and begin to embrace their programming or their say, shall we say, absolutist philosophy or what they say the Kundalini does or does not do, and what enlightenment is or is not, and what paths are available for enlightenment, how many of those paths there are, and all of these types of things. And so for those of you that are new to the Kundalini, nothing is more powerful, nothing is more valuable than your trust within the Kundalini in you. Forget about what any person says, any corporeal flesh person, unless the Kundalini has led you to them. Josephine mentioned that she looked on the internet over and over and over until she was led to Chrism. And, who knows, in a year's time, she may be, fully ensconced in ACIM or, Yogananda or some other entity or knowledge source that is completely different from what I'm teaching, and it's her Kundalini, her and her Kundalini. It is your relationship with your Kundalini that matters most. It's that relationship that matters the most. Now, she may send you, and I say she as the Sacred Mother, the Shakti, the Sacred Feminine. The Sacred Feminine may send you to certain people, to certain organizations. When I went to this Psychic Institute, I was led there simply to begin to give validation to the skills that I've been undermining because they didn't fit with the scientific paradigm of this world. So I was sent intuitively and environmentally. And by environment, I am meaning to say that my social environment was engineered to the degree that I would be able to be sent to the Psychic Institute in order to learn certain understandings, learn how to ground, learn how to see. I mean, although I was already able to see those things, it was just giving me levels of validation that I needed to have at that time. I didn't need to become a minister. They wanted me to become a minister. Of course, they also wanted $800 for that certificate, and so of course, I could see that wasn't going to work. So yeah, begin to understand. If you lock that, I'm asking Josephine to lock the door so the wind doesn't make it pound. Thank you. Don't reach out to any port in a storm when it comes to the Kundalini. If you're hearing this broadcast at all, begin to trust that source within you. Begin to trust the source that is giving you the Kriyas. And now some people are going to come and say, well, Chrism, how do I tell the difference between an entity and the Kundalini? And with entities, any kind of an entity that is going to invade your system, shall we say, I'm trying to phrase this in a nice way, a level of presumptive infatuation with your energetic signature that is not appropriate. It is an inappropriate infatuation with your energetic signature. It should not be inside you, in other words. And yet, if you're still able to follow the noble qualities, then that's fine. You really need to base your opinion of what is occurring within you upon the active expression of the noble qualities. And the noble qualities I explained earlier in the program. For those of you that are just popping in the middle, go back to the beginning of the program and I'll give a description of the noble qualities there. If you're still able to do the noble qualities, then you can listen to your Kundalini. If you are unable to do the noble qualities, then ignore what is giving you, say, an advice to not do the noble qualities. Ignore that advice and go straight into the noble qualities and wait for your Kundalini. It will begin to communicate with you in very specific ways. Sometimes, as I've mentioned in other programs, the Kundalini will allow certain levels of entity into your experience, and this is as it should be. The Kundalini is testing the individual for their ability to follow the noble qualities, even though they are being guided spiritually against it. And much of the time, the inappropriate entity infestation will occur, and the first thing that they want you to understand is that they are God. It's like, those entities that have collected in you, well, I am God, I am the God Ra, I am Ra, and they'll couch their terminology with you and go thou upon the masses of humanity and express thine divine condition on them. I am Ra. Did I do that well, Amelia? Did that work? Did that come through?
It's been a while. Yes, it did.
And yet, this group of entities will use, some ancient names as I am Methuselah, or some Bible thing, or Egyptian thing, or Chaldean thing, or Zoroastrian term, this type of stuff, Babylonian term. And no, you just tell that group of entities to shut up, and you're only going to listen to your Kundalini, and that's that. That is that, and that is all you do. You do not make any other commit. You don't even have to say shut up. You just zero in on the Kundalini. You can forget about any voices that you might hear in your head. Okay. These same qualities of voices are those that are starting these really, really, in many cases, detrimental organizations, because the people that are able to hear the voices are also able to be manipulated by those voices. And that manipulation may be a level of teaching that gives you only 2 ways to go into enlightenment, or only 64 ways to go into enlightenment, 73 ways, or 144,000 ways. It's a very creative level of manipulation that happens upon the masses of people that are coming into a Kundalini awareness. A lot of this, some of the Jehovah's Witnesses or Seventh-day Adventists or Mormons, the Mormons had, Joseph Smith had his golden tablets that he found under a rock out there in the east coast of the United States somewhere. And, it just goes on and on and on with these entity-based manipulations. You don't need to buy into it. when you have the Kundalini, especially in your early activation equation. You just trust the Kundalini. Kundalini will not necessarily come to you in a voice. But if it does, there will be no doubt. There will be no doubt. The voice of God in your ear does not require you to pay money. The voice of God in your ear does not require you to be limited to certain practices, or does not require you to be mean or angry or vengeful to other people. It does not require you to go outside of nobility, of the noble behaviors. The voice of God typically is just far too strong for a person to even receive. The voice of God through the Kundalini will typically come in an intuitive yearning to do a certain thing or not do a certain thing. So as you're early in your process and you're trying to discern the Kundalini from entities, from the external source or from the internal source, just follow the normal noble behaviors. Let that be your guiding light. Let the nobility of love, the nobility of forgiveness, the nobility of tolerance, the nobility of patience, the nobility of self-discipline, the nobility of compassion, the nobility of service, selfless service for others, the nobility of respect for the environment, the nobility of respect for God and the infinitude of faces and languages and sounds that the divine can come through. Let that be your guiding light. If you trust no man, no woman, trust that. Trust your Kundalini, which is both male and female at the same time. And if you have any questions about this conversation, please call 347-934-0026. And I'd like to go ahead and bring Rosemary on. Wake up, Rosemary.
No.
Wake up. Oh.
I've been waiting for my turn because from the beginning.
Snoring. I thought I heard some snoring coming from the east.
Well, not me.
No, of course not. Now, Rosemary.
Times, but not no. As soon as you started, I was going to push that one and say, "You're talking to me," as someone like that. This is the first thing that I've taken on in my life that I haven't tried to convince everybody, especially my family, my sisters, that here it is. This is what you need to do, and I'm sure they're grateful that I haven't done that, but and I, in this work and seminar, I think when I evaluate myself, I think I'm doing okay on that. But there's still in my heart, it's not my heart really, I guess, but like I'm thinking in my head, oh really, you want to do this? You really do. You're a seeker. You're always seeking, and here it is. You don't want to miss it. So I have to moderate my speaking.
Now, you have been a nun for 25 years, a Carmelized nun, right?
No, I was. Carmelites are like contemplative, cloistered community. I was in a community that was out working in the church. I was teaching those years. I was a hospital chaplain those years. I was administrative those years.
I didn't mean caramelized as in onions. I meant Carmelite. My apologies.
No, but there was prayer. There was prayer in every community's life. It was not the middle of the night, like 2 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like those sisters do, because these people had to get up and be in front of a classroom of students or on the floor in the hospital. You
were a Maronite, weren't you a Maronite?
Oh no, but there are Maronite sisters. No, I was.
Which one was you? Which one were you?
We're the Sisters of the Divine Redeemer, and I got assigned here to St. Paul, and that's how I ended up here. But their main community was Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Philadelphia, and then they had this hospital here in South St. Paul, and I was assigned here as a teacher, and the sisters, rest of them, 11 others, worked in the hospital.
Well, I have to congratulate your Kundalini. I think that you were chosen for Kundalini a long time ago, but you had to become divinely redeemed through certain experiences in your life that would allow you to even approach the Kundalini. And you know, the Christian church in its many variations has a long history of being the only way, right?
Sure.
How were you able to break? How were you able to break out of that?
Well, I'm going to rewind a little bit from what you just said, and it occurred to me this last week that it was over 45 years that I left home as a young person and joined the community. And you really had to leave behind your family. I mean, you didn't, and you got to see them in the beginning years once a year. You know, my mother really, it was hard for her. I was busy and I was on my life's journey, so I was a little selfish about that. But that's where I am in my life now, in a genuine way, in a deeper way, in my commitment to my Kundalini, and as well, like that community of sisters was committed to teaching and bringing the church and doing those things. I am likewise committed that other people have this, and it's not my traditional way of arm twisting, but that's in my heart. And I said, it is like that, because what I have to do now, since I've been back even from the ashram, I have deeper changes in myself that if I took a poll, I don't want to do it, but if I took a poll of my husband's family next door or my sisters and asked them what they think about the changes that they see in me, and they probably don't even have words for it, but it's really like that young woman leaving home to commit herself, and it's taken me all these years to get to the spot where I am now.
Well, how did you even decide that you weren't being lied to by Lucifer?
Where? Which stage is it?
Well,
I mean, right now.
As you when you saw the word Kundalini, how did you know that this was right?
Well, I when I took the seminar is when this began, but I didn't know. I didn't go in with it, and I'm telling people too about when I went. There were no bells and whistles and fireworks. And I said, "Oh my, this is it." I was just being guided in a very gentle way, and I was free, and I could do it. I don't remember anything standing out in my mind about what I expected to get out of this. I never heard that word but one other time before I read it in the Edge magazine, an interview with you about Chrism.
When you say you were being guided in a very gentle way, how did that feel?
It's very respected, I guess I would say, because there wasn't any pressure. I just, it all worked out. I was available. I don't even know if I told anybody I was doing this, whatever it was, you know?
I can't tell people how I felt because my whole life has been kind of like a big Kundalini equation. So my whole life, my reference points are far different from almost anybody's that I know. But your reference points and Josephine's reference points and Amelia's reference points, I think, are far more indicative of what can happen for people as they begin to follow the early guidance by the Kundalini to be able to discern that, hey, okay, this feels good to me. This is something that I feel is worthy of more attention. And I'm just asking you, Rosemary, how were you able to discern and trust that this this Kundalini approach was the way for you?
Well, I'm thinking that there are a couple times over this. Will be 3 years coming up now in September, and there were a couple times when I would say, I must maybe. What if I'm crazy? And it would pass. But one of the thoughts I thought was, well, if I am and I'm making mistakes, well, that's that. I'm not going to die. And I just kept moving along, and I haven't had those tests recently, but that's all that I could remember. And I thought, if that's how I handled it.
Okay, well, I just kind of lost my... can you still hear me, Rosemary?
I can.
Oh, jeez. Okay, no, this is good. This is good because I'm going to have to, geez Louise. Blog Talk just did something to me here. Well, you can still hear me then, okay?
Yeah.
I can hear you too, Chrism, very clearly.
I can't see the studio anywhere anymore. Lucky me.
Don't worry. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. It's fine.
Oh my word. Okay. Well. Getting back to thank you, Rosemary. Thank you very much for that. That's beautiful. Your experience is just gorgeous, and so are you. And I want to thank you for that. I'm just not comfortable not having my little studio here.
Oh, it's if you can trust me, I'll put Rosemary on blue now, and it's okay. Please don't go away and kick back in. I just don't want you to say I'll be back in a minute. Take over, Amelia.
Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Take over. Now, Amelia, let's talk to you again, and I want to invite anybody. Vashti, Steve, Julie, anybody who's there in the chat group to call in too, and because I want to open this up. This is a very, very, very important subject that I have not talked about very much at all. For those of you that follow the Yahoo group, sometimes I'm gentle about talking about this with people who are obviously becoming swayed by a group or an egregore, a group of consciousness that are beginning to have all the answers and the 73 paths, and I'm using that because that's the term that the individual used. I'm not going to give the name of the organization at all because I don't feel that they're a truthful organization. But I would like people to call in at 347-934-26 and talk a little bit about your journey and what has caused you to be able to trust the Kundalini, to discern the truth from, say, the truth mixed with wishful thinking, guessing, or outright untruths. So feel free to call 347-934-0026. And Amelia, do we have someone? Is there a questioner there?
Yes, there is, Chrism.
Let's bring them on.
There they go.
Hello, person.
Hello, Master C. You summoned me.
That's the voice of God. Now, if the entity comes to you and says, "Hello, this is Vashti," well, then I want to.
Oh my! When you said that, I was telling my wife. I said, I do hear things in the middle of the night. She says, "Oh, what kind of things?" And I said, they'll either call me by name or there'll be this strange noise that's not physical or something like that, and I'll just wake up. They will succeed in waking me up, but I generally just say, I have to sleep right now. Okay, go away.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now you had this amazingly diverse experience, Vashti. May I speak of a little bit?
Yeah.
You belong to Ekankar for a certain amount of time, And Ekankar, can you explain to people a little bit about what Ekankar is?
Yes.
Or what?
And then I want to go back to where my search actually started from, which was the Kundalini. But Ekankar's main premise is that each of us, on our most basic and fundamental nature, is soul or consciousness, a unit of awareness. And that unit of awareness is one with all that is, or it is one with the voice of God, which is considered the Holy Spirit. So there are two main tenets in Ekankar, that is the light and the sound of God. So inwardly, as we look, we see the light and the sound. And the sound is supposed to be a fundamental part of this whole teaching, and that it has the ability, if you become, and I'm going to use a New Age term, entrained to it, will lead you to higher states of consciousness and higher states of refinement. Well, I was with Ekankar for some 35 years or so. Went through the whole thing of becoming just neophyte and went up through the ranks, became a member of the clergy, became what is called a spiritual aide, which is like a spiritual counselor, became an initiator, which I had the authority from the living master to give initiations into the sound current. Well, geez, I'm such a body type person that, I'm always going to challenge everything. I don't care where I am, at which point I am in my growth or unfoldment. I'm going to challenge it. And I challenged it, and it broke my heart, because what I found is that it came up lacking. And so I went on my search. And let me go back to the beginning now of why I say this. I had my initial Kundalini activation, if you will. I don't know how it's termed, but I'm using activation as it actually being activated from its dormant state. I had that back in when I was 22, and I can't imagine how far back that was. That's 72, I think. And strangely enough, I started to notice that there was this ability in me to follow what was ever trying to communicate with me, because I kept saying, what is this? I feel like I'm being guided to do something. So I would simply open myself, and I would feel this tug at my third eye, and I would simply follow it, whichever way that it led me. And one night it led me to the Kundalini Yoga Center. And I didn't realize why I was there. I thought I was there just because these were spiritual people and, they did the yoga thing. But I didn't put it all together into this whole idea that the Kundalini was trying to communicate with me and trying to tell me, okay, here it is. You asked for it, and now here it is. So then I searched around. I read a book called The Kabbalion that's probably known by a lot of people who read any spiritual works. It's the seven laws of Hermetic philosophy. Anyway, to speed past that, I ended up in Ekankar, and I thought that I'd found everything there. And ultimately, I decided to turn away from it because there were a lot of things that weren't true. Okay, let's be real about this. They just simply aren't true. And
how were you able
Andrew Fesco turned me on to Chrism.
How were you able to discern that, Bashji? What caused you to be able to discern that?
I have something in me that lets me know if it sinks towards the ground, then I know that this is a no answer. And if it rises to the crown chakra, then I know that it's a yes answer. And so I started to ask.
You have a truthometer.
Well, okay. So I started to ask, over and over. It's like, is this really what this is? I mean, I'm a clergyman, and I'm expected to send out membership dues every year, and I'm expected to be at each major seminar, and for, as a spiritual aid, I'm supposed to be there available for people who are having problems on the spiritual path. And I said, okay, that's a wonderful thing, and it absolutely does satisfy my ego, but is it really what I'm after, which is, ultimate realization, of course, and I don't know what that is anymore. The Kundalini has just disarranged everything inside my head and said, listen, we're going to start from a new point, okay? Let's start from the point of trust. And you'll see sometimes when I write something, I'll say that this is the gesture of friendship between the soul or the person and the Kundalini. It is this handshake, if you will, just what they used to use when we're talking about internet. It's a handshake that says, okay, even though I don't know where I am or where I'm going to trust that you know more, and I'm going to follow your lead. And so that's how I got here. And I keep thinking, well, I guess I'm ready to, go off on my own, and I find myself still here because I have become a part of a family here. And I grow by listening. Amelia, Eileen, Rosemary, Linda, I grow from everyone. And I think that that's a function of this letting go. And I see Steve's name here, sure. But this is something that I've been wanting to say this for a long time. Thank you very much for allowing me to say this. I'm just so very happy to be in this community. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with 90%. And 90% is strong enough for me.
Well, Fashji, I mean, your consciousness, your presence is definitely a gift for all of us too. And so thank you for being here, and thank your wife for being with you and supporting you on this journey as well. Thank you, really, thank you for giving that background and that history, because a lot of these groups will definitely feed the ego. They'll make you the very right Reverend so and so this, and that's all basically ego oriented type of scenario.
Master C, can I say this? One of the main things that Eckhart taught is that we should stay away from the Kundalini because it was such a volatile type of energy to deal with.
Well, it is that.
They're right.
Yeah. Well, it is a volatile energy, but that doesn't mean you stay away from it. I mean,
right.
It's volatile too, but we run it in our cars.
Okay.
What a beautiful background that you have, though. And what a beautiful level of teaching that I think Kundalini was giving to you. What some of the things that you were mentioning about Eckhart is the level of astral travel that occurs within the belief system. There's a very strong level of astral travel, which of course feeds into the Kundalini equation. And the hewing, going around and doing all of that, that is also a level of dipping into the nada, the sound. And so, I think it had a lot of benefit for you. No, it was not the ultimate truth, and no, it did come up short, and it came up short exactly when it needed to come up short for you, so that you could move on in your life. But I think
it was very hard.
I think you were guided by the Kundalini the whole way, and that
Yes.
it was giving you an education that you could not receive any other way.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right.
You know,
right.
and the same with me. You know, I had to go through all the different weird things that I had to go through in order to come to this point in time right now. But what you have, I think one of the key aspects of your equation and what you just related to us was your truthometer. You know,
I use
the energy
it a lot.
And this would be in your spine, right? The energy would rise up the spine if it was true, or fall back down the spine if it wasn't, right?
Exactly. It'll go basal if it's not true.
That is so cool.
Well, I appreciate everyone giving me the time and the soapbox to stand on and
well, Basti,
just to tell my story.
You are loved, my friend, and you have been with this family for quite some time now, since I think 2009?
Oh, no,
Early?
It's only been 7 years.
Oh, wow. 7 beautiful years, my friend. Thank you for your presence.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Master C. Good night.
So there you have it. There you have it, folks. Yeah, Fasci, you know, and the truthometer. I mean, oh, man, would I have paid money to have had that skill when I didn't have a truthometer. I just had to. I was forced to listen, but to feel and to. I had to go through all the paroxysms of ego manifestation, and I'm not saying she didn't either, but what he said, I think, was very, very important. You know, maybe you also have a truthometer in you. Maybe you can feel energy rise when it's true and go low when it's not. And basically rising would be going into less density, and then going lower would be going into density. And a lie or something that is not true would be less or more dense than the truth. So when you encounter these types of organizations, it's not bad to want to participate in them. I don't want to give that, but I don't want you to think that the truth of all truths, because if it is describing itself as an absolutist organization, meaning this is the way, this is the way, and this is the only way. And even if they don't even couch it as the only way, they just say, this is the way, and this is what we do here. There's a level of absolutism that is cutting out other pathways of embracing truth. Also, if it's a type of organization that really pushes the as Rosemary put the arm twisting, but the proselytizing of itself to other people. Kundalini doesn't proselytize much. It just comes to you. Certain people have been earmarked for this experience to happen to them. They can meditate for the first time in their lives for 10 minutes and slam! There comes the Kundalini, and oh my gosh, what do I do now? You know, and what you do now is you begin to feel love and the truth of love. And this isn't love based in ego desires and attainments. This is love in being guided by that truthometer that Fasci has, or being guided, you know, through different levels of feeling and intuition that I had. And I'm going to go here to Josephine Smith. And Josephine, how you say you landed on Chrism and all that, but how did you know that you weren't being attacked by an evil force?
I really didn't know. I was still alive after my awakening, laying on the floor. After seeing all his videos and reading, it just told me it was right.
Well, when you say it told you, did it tell you with words?
No. word, like in my head, the thought. That was it.
So basically, a feeling of truth was getting into your kind of intuition.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she's having a hard time finding the words, and in many of these areas that we're discussing, it's a hard time finding the words. Yes, Amelia.
Hi, yeah. What happened for me, Chrism, without going into everything that happened beforehand, but how did I know that, this wasn't, I wasn't being attacked by an evil force? When I first came to the group and I read just one or two of your teachings, it resonated in my heart. That's where I felt the truth. My heart sort of expanded into the words, into what I was reading, and they reached into me as well, completely into the experience that I had with the Kundalini. So that was how I knew the truth of what I was reading.
What had you been involved with before? Like maybe go back like Vashti did. What have you been involved with that kind of led you up to looking into Kundalini as a possibility for you?
Well, it wasn't like that at all for me. I was born and bred and raised as a Catholic, and so, it would have been a very traditional Catholic upbringing. So that was, the only way, actually. It was one of these absolutist belief systems that I grew up with, where everybody else was going to hell. No, basically, but as I got older, and there was a change in Vatican II. There was a change, but I mean that's where I was rooted, But I always had a difficulty with a lot of things that I was told to believe in, and I was always seeking and searching, and I was always looking for God, for the truth. And so I never left the church as such. I would still go, but I would have spent a lot of time going, oh, for God's sake, and being frustrated with what I was having to deal with. But that, of course, was helpful in my seeking. I didn't meditate, and I didn't get involved in yoga. I would have read a lot of self-help books around, self-help as in, Louise Hay, things like that. Things began to happen to me on a physical level. I know retrospectively, as I look back, there was activation sequences going on, but I didn't understand or realize. And I had a lot of fear and such. I had horrendous fear. I had a lot of bad nighttime astral experiences, and so there was a lot of stuff going on in my life. Long story short, I had never heard of Kundalini ever, and back in 2006, I would have intuitive things occur to me as well and happen, and I just became a vegetarian. I always say meat left me. I stopped eating meat. And within a year, I went on a holiday and I had my Kundalini awakening experience. And it's different from what other people would have said. Like for me, like Rosemary said, there were no whistles. Well, for me, there was. I had this incredible experience of absolute everything is nothing, the void, all the things that you would read about that I hadn't read about but retrospectively have. I understood. I had the most amazing experience, and I knew that what was touching me was divinity. I had visions, all kinds of things occurred, and from that moment on, certain fears that I had were taken away completely. And I spent a couple of weeks in this bubble of incredible love, incredible connection with God, even though what was given to me was not in the context of my cultural or religious background. There was no referencing whatsoever into Catholicism or saints or Jesus. There was a lot of visions and things that were from an Eastern background that I had no familiarity with, words such as Vishnu, and different kinds of visions that I had no reference for at all. And I knew that it was God. And so my own understanding of God was totally shattered, totally obliterated in those few weeks. And then what began to happen, and so I had, the spine, there was all kinds of physical things going on, infusions, bliss, everything. And then as time passed, within a couple of weeks, I'm going to call it the divine left me. Now, I know it didn't, but the beautiful sensations and tactile experiences that I was feeling within my physical body that confirmed that this was holy, because it was holy, left me. And I was then left with very sharp tactile, what was in my body then were things like my spine was alive, the physical tactile sensations were different, and some fear began to creep into my equation then. My ego, all my conditioning then that I would have had suddenly rushed back in. And as I look back in it, I can see that what occurred was the Kundalini showed me through experiencing what God and divinity, enlightenment is. I tasted it and I knew of it, and then I had to go and do the work. And there's a big gap of 2 years there that I'm not even going to go into with struggling. I still hadn't heard of the word Kundalini. And then I came across I had heard of the word Kundalini at one point, but I knew it wasn't for me. And then when I opened myself, I came across your website immediately, and I read, I think it was just two of your teachings, Chrism, and as I say, my heart expanded again. My Kundalini responded as well in my spine at that time, but it was the infusion of love, both from my heart outwards, expanding, and from the words that I read. I knew that what was happening within me was the Kundalini, and I knew that the teachings that you had to give confirmed what was happening. And so I knew that it was a Kundalini awakening that was happening for me. And that's how I began, and that's how then, my ego and, it's been quite difficult at times, but I have never, ever, ever doubted or not trusted the Kundalini within me, and the Kundalini that led me to the Kundalini that comes through you. So that's my story. So there was never, ever a question of me not knowing.
Well, that's an amazing journey. Just like you and Vashti both have very diverse histories and experiences with this, and yet they all end up in the same place. It's all directed towards the inner divine and listening to that quality of communication that the inner divine gives. And remember, everybody, thank you, Amelia. Thank you for sharing that. Remember, everyone, that it is the noble qualities that will help you discern the appropriateness of any kind of a spiritual experience that you may be receiving. Watch out for that absolutism. Watch out for that. I mean, Amelia, she so eloquently, she told her story so well. She comes from a background of absolutist teachings, as does Rosemary, with regard to different aspects of Christianity. And I'm sure that even with Vashti and his Ekankar experience, there was a certain level of absolutism that you have to do things this way, or this won't happen, or you won't reach, as Vashti mentioned, self-realization. And I just want to really put it out there that these organizations, as they do mix level of truth into their paradigm of control, I guess is one way of putting it, your Kundalini may lead you, or even have you become born into, as Amelia was, born into a belief system that is very controlling and that has a very, very set level of experience and knowledge to teach you. But then, as you know, a certain thing will happen. Something will occur, and it will not be enough anymore, and you will be caused to need to move into another area of expression and of understanding. And the Kundalini will also be at the heart of this. Kundalini people are not accidental. Okay, yeah, you may be in a skiing accident, you may hit a tree, and as I've known some people to have, or be in a car accident or something like that. But even that would not be accidental. Not to say that chaos does not happen. Of course, chaos happens, but it's only chaos to the 5-sense human being. It may not be so chaotic to those who are able to go beyond the 5 senses. So as you come into contact with these organizations, as you may be guided to take certain levels of information, take the levels of information that the Kundalini presence is giving you through the auspices of that organization. Do not necessarily take the absolutism or the ultra-orthodox dogma that certain group or that organization may be offering you. It isn't necessarily the way it's going to be. Vashti was with Eckankar for 35 years. You know, that's a chunk of time. You know, but within that time frame, he was given many levels of spiritual refinement that aided his Kundalini, and he is within a self-realization equation right now. As is Amelia, as is Rosemary, as is Josephine, as am I. Realize that one group, whether it be Eckankar, Course in Miracles, Buddhism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, any of the groups that we've talked about in this conversation today, yes, there may be some kernels of truth, and it's up to you to discern those kernels of truth. But the main truth is the validation that you give to your Kundalini and the validation that it gives to you. Josephine here, she's had some amazing experiences here at the ashram. She's had she's been in the presence of giants here. And I'm not, I don't feel free to go into it because it's startling. It's startling information, and to some it could be absolutely terrifying, and so I won't go into it. But she has been in the presence of the Shakti Kundalini personified through the presence of a giant. This happens. Okay, this is part of the deal. This is part of the teaching. This is part of the training. This is not something that I am encouraging. I'm not saying, okay, Shakti, let's get together and let's talk about Josephine here. Well, okay, Chrism, what do you want to say about Josephine? Well, don't you think she needs to be in the presence of giants? Well, okay, I guess we can do that. No, this is not occurring. Shakti doesn't need to go through me with that. She just does it. And she knows that I will support that. She knows that because she knows me. So when you're dealing straight up with Kundalini, you can begin to express or to expect a certain level of communication from the Shakti to you in the format that the Shakti knows that you can understand, that the Kundalini knows that you can understand. Yes. It may send you to Yogananda. When I go to the Yogananda's ashram down there in Southern California, I feel the veracity of his teachings. I feel the truth of his words. I feel the truth and the commitment that was given to him through his Kundalini and allowed him to do the great works that he did. So I really feel, the legacy is there in energy. It's an energetic legacy that you can go down there, you can experience. And it's the same here. When a person begins to stay in the white room, well, the white room is the Kundalini room. That's the one where all the students stay in. And that is the one that is going to begin to answer you in certain ways that allow you to understand. And then another very, very kind gentleman put in a certain gift inside that room now that is there, and that is also helping people to reach their own enlightenment equation. If you would like to come to the ashram, you can give me an email at fireforall, that's KFIREFORALL @yahoo.com, and we can discuss that as well. Please be in a practice of the safeties for a certain period of time before you do that. People have a hard time understanding when it comes so fast and furious in the early stages. You need to respond to it within the format of the safeties. But the safeties are broad enough and expansive enough and can be expanded into your life in such a way that is not absolutist in any way, shape, or form, but it does offer a series of signposts that will allow you to begin to understand what is occurring with you. And through that understanding, you can begin to discern for yourself how the Kundalini is manifesting in your life. And Steve Jarecki, I know that you're having some questions about this currently within your process, and you are being introduced to a higher subject matter that has also been coming to you within the presence of your workshops and the different subjects that you come into, but you're beginning to be introduced into the level of grace that you. Hello? Oh boy. Hello. It says it's recording, Amelia, but I'm not sure. Oh, I guess it is. My iPad's playing with me. Steve, getting back to you. Introducing you to the level of grace that has even caused you to have a center and even caused you to begin to do the teachings that you're doing for people. And I honor you. I honor you in what it is you're doing, but also in what it is you're becoming. And it looks like I have Sanandia. Hello, Sanandia.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, and you?
I'm doing fine. And do you have anything you'd like to add to our conversation today?
Well, I just chimed in, so I missed half of the show. I'm sorry about that. But the topic seemed interesting, so I don't know. Do you see anything? Is there anything that you feel that you could tell me? I don't know.
You want me to give you a reading?
Yes.
All right.
Is that hard?
Second here. Looking behind you here. Oh.
Sure.
Yeah. Quite a long. You're already involved in a program of shall we say spiritual study. You can just tell that from your name. But I'm also seeing a heavy interaction with shall we say discarnate consciousness behind you, plugging into your third chakra. What is it you do? Tell me about yourself.
About myself. What would you like to know?
Anything that you feel like telling me. That's something of a nature that might dovetail with the Kundalini.
Okay.
What kind of a spiritual practice are you in right now?
A spiritual practice? I do try to reach to a higher calling, which is God. I do try to get in contact with myself. I think I'm at a point where I am at a spiritual awakening, if you will, and accepting that. I've been told that I am very intuitive.
Are you practicing Reiki?
Is that like healing?
Yeah, are you practicing like Reiki, Reiki this, Reiki that, Reiki masterism?
No, I'm not. I've actually, in the past, I've prayed over people and hovered my hand over their bodies for healing, and it's actually worked.
Okay. Do you belong to any kind of a spiritual group?
No, only Christian, but not any like really in particular.
Well, I do see a long lineage behind you that is once again plugged into the third masculine, of kind of a masculine nature. That could be the Christian scenario with you. It's definitely influencing you. I would like, what I have for you, my dear, is a solid and firm teaching to recognize the power of the sacred feminine. The sacred feminine on this path. God is not a man sitting on a cloud. God is a man and a woman sitting on a cloud, on the same chair, actually. And God's on the right side, and the woman is on the left side, if we choose to look at it, from a 5-cent standpoint. And it's quite necessary for you in your life right now to begin to recognize sacred femininity as 50% of the power base on this world that you are working with, and that is wanting to begin to work through you. Basically, the sacred mother is calling you at this time. The sacred father has had you long enough, and he's saying, well, now it's time for you to get to know your mom.
Oh, say that again?
Now it's time for you to get to know your mom, your sacred mother.
My sacred mother, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
How do I do that?
Sure, recognize that your body, recognize that the dirt, the trees, the blood in your veins is all an aspect of the sacred feminine. Recognize that the interaction between sacred male and sacred femininity is what causes life to begin on this world and gives us a vehicle of evolutionary expression that allows us to become a little less dependent upon the material plane and more accepting of love as a gateway towards the spiritual planes of experience.
Right.
Does that make any sense to you?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. I think I don't think, I actually am at a point in my life where I am trying to get in touch with mind, body, and soul. And I am trying to get in touch on the more spiritual realm of things, whether it be seeing things, whether it be good or bad, so that I can easily identify certain things.
Well, yeah, I would definitely not just stick your eyes up into the multiverse and look and see. I would definitely begin to, if I were you, and I'm just giving you some suggestions here.
Okay.
I would begin to follow the noble behaviors. Do you know what those are?
No.
Forgiveness, tolerance, patience, self-discipline, love, compassion, selfless service for others,
Yeah.
Trust the divine within you, not the divine so much outside of you. You've had enough of the divine being recognized outside of you. Now it's time for you to recognize the divine within you.
Right.
Okay. Those are some of the noble qualities. And as long as you begin to practice those noble qualities daily, consciously, well then the Sacred Mother and you will begin to a tighter and more communicative relationship that perhaps has previously been the case. And as you begin to expand into those areas, your Kundalini will begin to respond to those behaviors.
That's pretty powerful. Yeah, I definitely want to tap into that.
So yeah, definitely.
And you hit it right on the nail. Definitely.
Kind of a beer barrel terminology there, but yeah. Try to tap into that, and yeah. Listen to the rest of this broadcast, and Sanandya, I'm going to counsel you to really listen to the voice. Listen to the Kundalini in the voice. Listen to the conversation from the beginning as well. Because this will be archived, and you'll be able to hear this in an archival fashion. Listen to the voice. Let the voice reach into you. Listen to the voice of Rosemary and Vashti and Josephine and Amelia, and feel the clarity. Feel the clarity of the energy as it expresses itself through them and through the diverseness of their histories and their experiences. And you will begin. You will definitely begin to tie in, because I don't think it's an accident that you're here.
No, it's not.
So really begin to embrace this if you feel it is appropriate for you to do so. Once again, as I was discussing earlier in the program, feel the clarity of truth within these organizations that you may come into. KAS1 can be seen as a quasi-organization that is giving people Kundalini information. So feel the rightness of it for you. Okay. Let it speak to you in the way that your Kundalini wants it to be heard by you. Don't feel manipulated. Don't feel like you need to, like there's an absolutist quality to this, because, as I mentioned earlier, you come into this equation with a very different history, of interaction on this world. Like Amelia and like Rosemary, you have a Christian background, and this is cool. And I think, Josephine, you also have a Christian background, yes?
Yes.
So you're in good company, my dear.
Yes, and actually, my family, my mom, she's very spiritual, and my grandmother, she is very, very spiritual. Like on my father's side, she's very spiritual, and they're actually the ones who gave me that name. They gave me my name.
Sanandya?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a beautiful name. It's a beautiful name, my dear. And just from looking at you, I can tell it belongs to a beautiful individual.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And thank you, my dear, for calling in. Keep listening on the phone. I'm going to put you on the blue here, and keep on listening. And so that's it, everybody. Sanandya, welcome to this program. Thank you for calling in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask Amelia to come on. And Amelia, do you have any announcements that you'd like to make? Anything? And then I'm going to bring Rosemary on because I think she has some announcements too.
Sure, I have, Chris, and I suppose I'd like to just say before I go as well that
please
the background that I had in Christianity had such a lot of positive things around devotion and, do unto others and that sort of thing. But it had a huge, it's the organizational aspect of what it was promoting was huge, the church. And one of the things, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing, the whole organizational aspect. And what I would like to say is that, yes, what you said there, that, CAS1 is an organization. But the thing is, the safeties and the noble behaviors that are, in inverted commas, promoted or suggested for a person within the context of their Kundalini awakening, that has nothing to do. They're not about the program. They're not about Chrism. They're not about, in any way connected, really. They're all about the Kundalini awakening for the person that is within a Kundalini awakening. That's their purpose. So, to me, CAS does not have aspects of the organizational attachments that other organizations do. And that's very important. The noble behaviors and the safeties are totally for the benefit and for the person. And now I'll make my announcement.
No, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, it is. And they are
maybe not absolutely true, but maybe it's but it is true. It is the truth of the intention that they were offered in.
Yes. So what I would like to do now is let people know that are listening, and many of you already know this, that there is no charge or nothing is expected for any of the teachings that Chrism gives, but donations are accepted, and it is the only way really that the work that is done is supported financially. So if you're in a position to make a donation, and if you want to do that, it would be very, very welcome. The website you can go to is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And on the upper right-hand corner, you will see a donate button, and it is very, very easy to do. Just press the button and take it from there. Again, there's absolutely no pressure whatsoever for you to donate, but if you want to do so and are in a position to be able to do so, as I say, it would be very welcome. www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And thank you, everybody, and thank you, Vashti. It was great hearing your voice, and Rosemary and Josephine and everybody. And thank you, Chrism. See you next week.
Thank you, Amelia. Don't go away yet. And Rosemary, hello again. Are you with us here?
I am.
Would you like to make an announcement as well?
Yes, I would. Eileen and I are working on the seminar of September 27th and 28th. And I did my first film screening with the Kundalini movie, and people were very inspired by that. Chrism, thank you for your work on that. That group, it's a little early in the whole process. I'll be going back there in August. And also participated in an expo at one of the large spiritual communities in Minneapolis. And that was the first time I've done that. And it was very inspiring for me, and to find people open to listening to what I have learned. And
what? How did people get a hold of you with regards to the seminar?
651-452-3161. or rosemaryg@usinternet.com.
Okay, and this is how they can get information about. And where is it?
It's in the St. Paul side of the cities. And
in Minnesota. It's in Minnesota, yes. And it's on the St. Paul side of the city.
Yes.
And when is it again?
The seminar itself will be in the hotel where we have rooms put aside for people that will be staying from out of town. And I'm committed to, for as much as the human commitment can do, is that there be a large number of people here from the Twin Cities. And my heart's desire is that there be a Kundalini community here.
What dates, Rosemary? What dates, Rosemary?
September 27th and 28th.
September 27th and 28th. in the state of Minnesota, in the city of St. Cloud, right?
No. The St. Paul side is really the city of Egan. The local folks know where that is, and we're really not far from a lot of places where we do have people in the community.
St. Cloud.
Sorry about that.
There is such a place.
There is. See? I know. Somehow I knew.
There's a city called Embarrassed, too. Embarrassed, Minnesota. It's not there.
Well, thank you, dear Rosemary. Thank you for going to the expo. I'm really, really happy that you're out there. You're showing people the Kundalini movie. You're introducing people to the idea that they may not be crazy. They may just be Kundalini awakened. I mean, what a nice thing. What a beautiful service. There you go. There's a noble quality in action right there, my dear.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Rosemary. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue here. Thank you, my dear. And Amelia, I would like to say thank you for being the originator of this show and for this noble quality, a selfless service given by you and John into the populations. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chrism.
And a good night to you, my dear. And a good day, or good night, or good afternoon, or good morning to any of you that are out there listening right now. And we'll talk again next week. Thanks for joining the show.
Herr Kahn, wie holt man eigentlich das Double?
Ganz einfach, mit einem neuen Samsung QLED TV.
Jetzt QLED TV Aktionsgerät kaufen und Gutscheine für 6 Monate Live-Fußball aus europäischen Top-Ligen bekommen. Über Sky Ticket, DAZN und Eurosport Player in der Samsung Sportworld App. Mehr Infos auf samsung.de/sportworld.
Nur bis zum 17. Juni.